Hey, all you Nintendo Switch fans, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I hope you're having a great holiday season. Welcome back to another eShop deals video. I've got 30 super rock solid eShop deals. Let's jump right into them and talk about them. First of all, we have the wonderful 101 Remastered, currently 55% off, only $17.99. Now, this did just go on sale recently for the Black Friday sale, but before that, it had been well over a year since it had seen a sale. So maybe possibly it's going to go back to very few sales, but this is a Platinum game. If you're not familiar with Platinum games, they make really over-the-top action games. This one is no different in the fact that it is over the top. Basically, you play as these heroes, and they are gathering citizens, and they can turn all these people into different weapons, whether it's a sword or a giant fist to fight. Really goofy, crazy, over-the-top action. Definitely a major hidden gem among Platinum's library of great games. Next, we have Smurfs Kart. Smurfs Kart is 30% off, bringing it down to $27.99. This is its first ever sale, and it's a pretty solid one. I don't think I would have recommended this, but I started checking out reviews, and what do you know? It's a really solid kart racer, apparently. Now, it more or less is just straight up cribbing right off of Mario Kart, but that's not a bad thing. If you're going to copy, you might as well copy from the best. Sounds like they did a really solid job of it. And I'm a sucker for kart racers, and I think even at this price, I'm probably going to pick it up. Next, we have Grand Mountain Adventure Wonderlands. I got a review key for this game a long time ago. I really enjoy it. This is a very relaxing, top-down snowboarding and skiing game. It's very zen-like. Again, it's very, you're exploring these big mountains. It's very beautiful. My biggest problem with this game was simply the price. It was way overpriced, in my opinion, at $35. Right now, it is 50% off, its lowest price ever, bringing it down to $17.49. Now, I want to be clear. I don't think that that is an amazing deal. I just simply think that this price finally brings it down to really the price it should have been at release, around that $20 or less price. But it's gotten some really solid reviews on Metacritic from both users and critics. Again, I think it is a solid game. I think it's just finally at the price that it should have been in the first place. Next, we have Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. It is 75% off for only $9.99. This is another game that goes on sale very often, but it's been about a year since it's hit this low of a price. But the Monster Boy games are amazing Metroidvanias. It's all done with really beautiful hand-drawn art. Basically, you play as Monster Boy. He can turn into new animal forms to traverse new areas and to combat in different ways. Definitely one of the premier Metroidvanias on the Nintendo Switch. Next, we have Oceanhorn Toon, Knights of the Lost Realm. This is, of course, the sequel to the original Oceanhorn. It is currently, by far, at its lowest price ever, 40% off for only $17.99. Whereas the original Oceanhorn was basically straight up a copy of the old school top-down Zelda, this is more of a copy of the original 3D style of Zelda. So don't think Breath of the Wild, more like Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask style of gameplay. Now, don't go in expecting something as good as Zelda. From my understanding, it's definitely rough around the edges, but for this price, it's finally at where I want to pick it up, and the reviews are definitely still solid. Gibbons Beyond the Trees is at its lowest price ever, 50% off for only $7.49. I got a chance to try this out this summer. This is another game that I think was just a little overpriced at its original price. I think it came out at $15. It just, again, this is very much what you see is what you get. This is an auto runner where you're basically controlling the Gibbon and controlling the way he grabs onto the trees, the way he slides across them and swings. It's very cool. It's very zen-like. It's very relaxing. Actually has a really cool story sort of taking place about the destruction of this Gibbons forest. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I just thought it was a bit overpriced, but finally it's 50% off, $7.50. I think at that price, it's definitely worth a pickup. A Juggler's Tail is currently 50% off for only $8.99. Its lowest price ever. If you're a fan of games like Inside and Limbo, you like that sort of weird, kind of slightly creepy 2D platformer puzzle game, you would definitely like A Juggler's Tale. You play as a little girl, but obviously she's a marionette on strings. There's a narrator that's narrating the whole game, and you're just making your way through these sort of creepy environments as she's basically trying to escape the circus that she was enslaved to. Very much an underrated experience. Didn't get a lot of buzz when it came out. Definitely worth the $8.99 that is now being asked of it. Narita Boy is currently 75% off, bringing it down to only $6.24. Again, by far its new lowest price. That's the theme of these deal videos this week, is a lot of new lowest prices. But Narita Boy is a sort of 1980s Tron-esque, super neon-infused Metroidvania style game. It got some solid reviews when it came out. I haven't personally played it, but I might pick it up on this sale, and I think it really looks phenomenal. Next, we have Orbital Bullet. Orbital Bullet is hitting its lowest price ever, 33% off, bringing it down to $13.39. Now, if you didn't know, I'm starting to live stream games too, and I actually got a chance to live stream this a couple of weeks ago. I'll make sure to leave a link to that. But this is a new, fun, little fresh take on the roguelike genre. Basically, it's sort of an action run-and-gun roguelike, but all takes place on these 3D cylinders that you are moving around and also moving into the layers back and forth in them. It doesn't do anything that's crazy innovative, but simply by moving it into that sort of new mechanic, again, of running across these cylinders, it at least injects some fresh blood into the roguelike genre. Tales of Iron is currently 60% off for $9.99. I've talked about Tales of Iron almost every time it goes on sale. By far, one of my favorite Switch games of 2021 when it first came out. This is a phenomenal side-scrolling Souls-like game. It is all narrated by the same voice actor who voiced Geralt from The Witcher. It's really phenomenal, and it surprisingly feels really serious for a game that's about rats trying to take on an incoming toad horde that's taking over their kingdom. Next, we have WWE 2K Battlegrounds, both the regular version and the digital deluxe edition. Now, the regular version is currently 80% off, bringing it down to $7.99. Or you can get the deluxe version for 80% off, bringing it down to $9.99. This is a very arcadey style wrestling game. It's pretty darn solid, but the reviews for it were not so great at the beginning, and really that came down to the fact that this was a game released at full price, and it's kind of riddled with microtransactions. Basically, a lot of the wrestlers are hidden behind these purchases that you have to make with coins. You can earn the coins in the game, but obviously it's a lot easier to buy them. Now, if you buy the digital deluxe version, you get a nice little solid chunk of those coins to begin with. But obviously, you're going to have to decide whether or not you're willing to stomach the microtransactions at this new lowest price. But this kind of feels like it's a little bit more where it should have been priced at if they wanted to double dip, so to speak. Borderlands Legendary Collection, only 80% off for $9.99. That is by far its lowest price ever. The previous low was $20, so they've really slashed this one. You don't need me to tell you about Borderlands. It's simply the premier looter shooter experience. You get the original one in this package, you get Borderlands 2 and Borderlands the pre-sequel. So, a really awesome package. Just a ridiculous amount of game time you could get out for $10. That is absolutely nuts. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. That is a nice long title, but I really enjoyed this game. This is a bottom-to-top remake of a really classic, or at least classic to some people, early 2000s platformer. So for better or for worse, if you're a fan of that old style of platformer, you're going to really enjoy it. If you don't have nostalgia for that, though, I don't know if this is really going to be the game for you, because some of it may seem a little bit dated. But personally, I loved every second of it. Diablo 2 Resurrected at its lowest price ever, 67% off for only $13.19. This also comes in the Diablo Prime Evil collection. Now, this is only at its lowest price ever, 67% off for $19.79. What really surprised me about this, though, is the Prime Evil collection also includes Diablo 3 The Eternal Collection. And Diablo 3 The Eternal Collection just went on sale a couple weeks ago for 50% off, which brought it down to $30. So again, if I'm reading the eShop listing correctly, this is a whole $10 cheaper than just buying the Eternal 3 collection, and you get Diablo 2 Resurrected. So I'm almost wondering if there's a mistake here, but that is what I see as contained within this collection. So you might want to double check on the eShop before you click buy, but that's kind of an insane deal if that's the case. Wobble Dogs, the console edition, is getting its first ever and obviously then lowest price, $15.99. That is 20% off. If you're not familiar with Wobble Dogs, it is just a really weird, silly dog breeding simulation game. So you've got these strange, goofy looking dogs. You are building their environment for them, their housing, their food, you're taking care of them, but also, again, you are breeding them by mutating and sort of crossbreeding and doing all kinds of crazy stuff with it. So if you're tired of the sort of story narrative-driven games, you want something that's just strange, but also kind of relaxing, I think you would really enjoy Wobble Dogs. And this is actually a game that's really nice after you've sort of set it up and got your dogs going. It's actually something you could kind of just leave on in the background and just watch the weird, silly things they do. So it almost kind of works even as a screensaver, not just as a game. We've got all 3 of the Darksiders games are back on sale again. These are all amazing. Darksiders 1 and 2, they're basically, if you mixed a 3D Zelda game, but with a sort of God of War style hack and slash combat, they're amazing. I personally recommend the first one. That's by far my favorite. It is 70% off, bringing it down to $8.99. The second one, also 70% off, bringing it down to $8.99. And they have Darksiders Genesis. That is also 70% off. That brings it down to $11.99. That one changed it up a bit. It's more of a top-down gauntlet perspective, sort of hack and slash, and it can be played co-op, but also super solid. All 3 games are really great choices. If it were me personally, though, I would start with the first one because I think that's the best one. Arcade Paradise is getting its lowest price ever, $14.99. That is only 25% off, but I am super excited about Arcade Paradise, and I'm definitely picking it up on this sale. Now, I know it's not a big discount, but Arcade Paradise, for me personally, is definitely at the top of the list of games that came out this year that I didn't get a chance to try, and I absolutely want to. The basic concept in this game is you are taking over the laundromat, and you are taking care of that laundromat to make a little bit of money, but there's a back room in the back where you can also start building your own arcade. And again, this is also a way that you'll make money. But the really cool twist is obviously, and that you would expect, you can play all of the arcade games. So this works as sort of an arcade running simulation, but also a chance to play all these sort of retro-inspired games. Even more exciting, though, from what I understand, they are releasing the first licensed game as DLC for it, which is Kung Fury. Now, I don't know a lot about Kung Fury, but I'm really hoping this means the floodgates might open and we could even get some classic-style arcade games that you could put in your very own arcade simulator. But I am very excited to pick this one up. I'm curious if any of you guys are too. Grapple Dog is currently 50% off for only $7.49. This is a phenomenal platformer that just came out early in this year. You play as a dog with a grappling hook, making your way through all kinds of really beautiful hand-drawn environments. I've said before many times, I'm a sucker for a game with a grappling hook mechanic, and Grapple Dog in particular, especially since it's central to the character, it does the grappling hook mechanic wonderfully. So if you want to play one of the best traditional platformers this year, definitely give Grapple Dog a chance. Dying Light Definitive Edition, it is currently at its lowest ever price for the digital version for only $20. That is 60% off. Now, the physical version has gotten that cheap before, but the digital version on the eShop never has. This is one of those insane, unbelievable, you can't believe they did it, ports to the Switch. Now, if you're not familiar with Dying Light, it is a big open world, parkour movement style, zombie, big open world game. I think I said open world twice, but that's how great it is. But it has all kinds of RPG mechanics to level up your character. You're always trying to survive. Make sure you don't go out at night unless you absolutely have to. And this is the full package with all the DLC. It is shockingly great looking for the Switch port too. Ghost of a Tale is currently 50% off for only $12.49. Now, I've never played this one, but the reviews for it are solid, and it's always caught my eye. Basically, you are playing as an anthropomorphic, I'm never sure if I'm saying that word right, but a mouse who is making his way out of this prison ran by rats. And it's sort of an old school style 3D stealth game, but it looks like it has a lot of character, a lot of charm, and really shockingly beautiful for a Switch game. So if you're looking for something to scratch that classic 3D stealth game itch, Ghost of a Tale should be right up your alley. Scourgebringer is currently 45% off for only $9.34. I love Scourgebringer, and when it comes up on sale, I don't talk about it every time, but I feel like I need to talk about it at least occasionally. An absolutely amazing action platformer combat roguelike. The combat, though, is the central focus of this game. It just feels amazing. you are hacking and slashing and shooting all these sort of weird aliens and robotic creatures, and it just feels so good and crunchy. There's so many cool moves to be able to like zip your way over to an enemy and then take that enemy and slam them into the ground and then just slash them to pieces. It is, again, super satisfying, the combat. I can't stress that enough. Soldiers is getting its first ever discount, so it's obviously at its lowest price ever, 20% off for only $15.99. Now, this came out this summer. It was super hyped up, and unfortunately it definitely got hyped up a little bit too much. It came out and it definitely had some issues. Thankfully, those issues have been patched out. When it first came out, it was way too difficult with some crazy difficulty spikes, insanely long load times. Some of the character classes you could choose from just weren't as powerful as the other. But they've really gone back and ironed out literally everything. The load times, in my opinion, are still a little bit long, but because of not having those stupid, insane difficulty spikes, it really helps a lot now. Honestly, if they would have released it in the state it is now, I think it would have ended up being one of the best reviewed Switch games of the year. Rain on Your Parade is 35% off, bringing it down to $9.74. That is its lowest price ever. This is a really goofy sort of action adventure puzzle game where you play as a rain cloud who is absolutely wreaking havoc on top of all these crazy scenarios. So you'll have some obvious scenarios where you're like ruining something's wedding, or you'll even have one scenario where you're raining down meteors on the dinosaurs. So it's really crazy. If you like these sort of just goofy, over-the-top sort of puzzle action games, you're really going to enjoy Rain on Your Parade. Little Nightmares 1 and 2 bundle. It is currently 70% off for only $14.99. Lowest price ever. I probably don't need to tell you too much about the Little Nightmares games. They are side-scrolling sort of stealth horror games. They're really phenomenal. Even for someone like me who really doesn't get into horror games, I can really appreciate the Little Nightmares games. And you're really getting a lot of game for 15 bucks. That is a pretty darn good deal. Jurassic World Evolution, the Complete Edition. It is 70% off for $17.99. That is by far its lowest price ever on the Switch. Pretty simply, this is a Jurassic Park builder simulation game, and it's done really well. It was reviewed very well. It sits at a 75 on Metacritic and 77 from the user score, so I know it's pretty darn good, it sounds like. I haven't personally played it. Usually these simulation games aren't really my cup of tea, but I've heard nothing but good things about this one. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, the amazing new Mario and Rabbids games, super well reviewed. It sits at an 86 on Metacritic. It is getting its first ever digital sale, 25% off for $44.99. I'm not going to tell you about the Mario and Rabbids games too much. It's basically Mario plus Rabbids built into this sort of strategy action game. I don't want to be a downer for this sale, but the thing is Ubisoft generally will discount their games pretty often, and that was no exception for the original Mario plus Rabbids. So I wouldn't really be surprised if 6 months out from now, you could easily pick this up for $30 or maybe even less than that. But if you can't wait and you want to play this really solid reviewed strategy action game, now would be a great time to pick it up. Slaycation Paradise. It is currently 50% off, bringing it down to $9.99. That is its lowest price ever. I have talked about this in one other deal video. It is a really strange little twin stick shooter, but the basic premise is you are living in a world that has the ability to teleport you to different versions of Earth that are going through apocalyptic situations. So essentially you can take a paradise where you can just sort of join in the destruction of another planet. A really strange concept, but it seems like it's a really solid twin stick shooter. All the sort of typical stuff, lots of stuff to upgrade, really sort of goofy sense of humor. Definitely a solid pickup for this price. Origami, the Shadow Edition, 75% off, bringing it down to $7.49. That is by far its lowest price ever. Origami is an amazing stealth ninja game. Now, the sequel just came out recently. That one is also very well reviewed. But if you like the old Tenchu games, you would love Origami. Basically, the big gimmick in this one, though, is that you are a sort of shadow ninja and you have the ability to manipulate the shadows. And also, when you go into a shadow, you're able to completely disappear from the enemies. I don't even usually get into sort of these stealth games, but I really enjoyed this one, so I wholeheartedly recommend it. All right, all you Switch fans, I really hope you enjoyed this week's Switch deals. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, I hope you have great gaming. Bye-bye.